When we speak of harmony, we often imagine a distant dream, a world where people truly understand one another and live side by side in peace. Yet harmony does not begin in the halls of governments or in the streets of cities. It begins in the quiet moments of our own hearts. The first bridge we must build is the one between ourselves and our innermost being. Without that bridge, every connection we seek outside remains fragile, like a house built on shifting sand. To connect with myself is to pause and listen, not just to the noise of my thoughts, but to the whispers beneath them. It is the art of becoming a friend to my own soul, of recognizing that I carry both shadow and light, both wounds and wisdom. Too often, we run from ourselves, believing that busyness or distraction will protect us. But true peace comes when I can sit with my fears, my doubts, my quiet hopes, and say, "You are welcome here." This is the soil where self-acceptance grows, where I begin to trust my own inner voice. From that place of inner grounding, my presence changes. I no longer approach others from a place of scarcity or fear, but from authenticity. Real connection with others requires vulnerability, the willingness to be seen as we are. It is not built on masks or performances, but on the shared humanity that lives in every heartbeat. When I speak, I strive to speak with honesty. When I listen, I try to listen not to reply, but to understand. In these simple choices, walls soften, and bridges rise where division once stood. The world aches with misunderstanding because we have forgotten how to see one another. When we choose empathy over judgment, curiosity over assumption, something extraordinary happens. The stories we carry, our struggles, our triumphs, our longing to belong, begin to weave together like threads in a vast tapestry. Every conversation becomes a chance to heal the silent spaces between us. But connection is not passive. It asks us to reach beyond comfort, to sit across from someone different from ourselves and remain open. It asks us to slow down, to value presence more than performance, depth more than speed. It is an act of courage to stay engaged when opinions differ, to remember that beneath labels and identities, we share the same breath, the same fragility, the same longing for love. When I nurture connection, with myself and with others, I contribute to something greater than individual well-being. I participate in shaping a culture of respect, understanding, and unity. Harmony is not a utopia promised by someone else. It is a reality we build moment by moment, choice by choice. A kind word, an act of patience, a willingness to forgive, these are not small things. They are seeds that grow into forests of peace. The journey toward a harmonious world begins here, with each of us daring to know ourselves, daring to open our hearts to others, and daring to believe that the spaces between us are meant to be bridged, not widened. If we each take that step inward, then outward, together, the ripple becomes a wave, and the wave becomes a tide capable of reshaping the very way humanity lives together. Harmony begins with self-connection, because before I can ever hope to meet the world with balance, I must meet myself. To connect inwardly is not a single action performed once and checked off a list. It is an ongoing dialogue with the quietest parts of who I am. Every day I wake, the noise of the world begins almost immediately. Messages, responsibilities, voices asking for attention. In that rush it is easy to forget that beneath the surface there is an entire inner landscape waiting to be acknowledged. Self-connection means granting myself the space to pause, even if only for a few breaths, and ask, what am I truly feeling? What is moving through me right now? Often, we are strangers to our own hearts. We know the schedules, the deadlines, the expectations, but not the subtle longing that sits underneath our smile, the tension that hides behind our posture, the quiet fatigue that never makes its way into conversation. Turning inward is an act of courage, because what we find there is sometimes messy, contradictory, even uncomfortable. Yet it is in that honest meeting with ourselves that harmony begins to root. When I accept my feelings, joy, fear, sadness, hope, without immediately judging or editing them, I start to build trust with my inner voice. I begin to see that my emotions are not enemies but signals, guiding me toward deeper understanding. Self-connection invites me to sit with my doubts instead of silencing them, to listen to my insecurities instead of masking them, to hold my own suffering with compassion instead of shame. It is a practice of becoming a safe space for my own existence. This inward harmony changes how I move through the world. If I am disconnected from myself, I may search endlessly for validation outside, trying to fill the emptiness with approval, applause, or constant activity. But when I connect inwardly, I discover that much of what I seek is already present. The capacity for calm, the seeds of wisdom, the resilience I thought I lacked. My identity no longer hinges on fleeting opinions or external outcomes. I begin to carry a steadiness that no circumstance can easily shake. Self-connection is also about integration. Every human being contains many layers: memories, dreams, fears, values, contradictions. When I turn toward these layers with honesty, I stop fighting against parts of myself I once exiled. I learn that the impatient part of me has a message, that the timid part longs for reassurance, that the ambitious part seeks expression. Instead of fragmenting into 1,000 selves, I start weaving them together into a more authentic wholeness. Practically, this may look like daily reflection, journaling, meditating, walking quietly without a phone, or simply breathing and noticing the rise and fall of my chest. It might involve honest conversations with myself about what I truly desire, what wounds I have yet to heal, and what boundaries I must honor. There is no single method, only a consistent willingness to turn inward with gentleness. The world outside often teaches us to outrun our discomfort, to hide our vulnerability behind busyness or achievement. But self-connection invites the opposite: slowing down, witnessing, allowing. It asks for patience as we unearth patterns formed long ago, and kindness as we meet our imperfections. This is not weakness, it is the foundation of genuine strength, because only when I understand myself can I show up authentically for others. In this inward work, harmony ceases to be an abstract concept and becomes a lived experience. The more I know myself, the less I need to project my pain onto others. The more I listen within, the more spacious I become with those around me. By anchoring in self-connection, I create an inner stillness that radiates outward, influencing the energy of every room I enter, every conversation I share. Self-acceptance creates authenticity because it dismantles the invisible armor we spend years constructing. Many of us move through life carrying silent questions. Am I enough? Am I lovable if I stop performing? Would people still respect me if they saw my unpolished edges? To live authentically, I must first meet those questions inside myself and answer them with gentleness. Only when I accept the full truth of who I am, the radiant qualities and the imperfect ones, can I stand before the world without pretense. Accepting myself is not an act of resignation, it is an act of liberation. It means acknowledging the chapters of my story without erasing the ones that hurt, the ones I regret, or the ones that shaped me in ways I still struggle to understand. It is saying, yes, this is part of me, and I am still whole. When I embrace my scars as much as my successes, I no longer live in fear of exposure. There is nothing left to hide because nothing inside me is rejected. Authenticity grows from this soil. It allows me to speak words that are aligned with my inner reality, rather than carefully curated for approval. It invites me to make choices that honor my values, even when they are inconvenient or misunderstood. It reminds me that my worth is not a negotiation dependent on praise, but an inherent truth I carry simply by existing. The more I accept myself, the less energy I spend maintaining masks, and the more energy I have for genuine presence. This acceptance transforms relationships. When I no longer chase perfection, I stop demanding perfection from others. I meet people as they are because I have learned to meet myself as I am. Authenticity acts like a quiet beacon. When I show up honestly, I give silent permission for others to do the same. Conversations deepen. Defenses soften. Real connection becomes possible because we are no longer two performances colliding but two humans sharing a moment of truth. The process is rarely instant. Many of us were taught to shrink parts of ourselves to fit expectations. Our creativity, our sensitivity, our unconventional dreams. Self-acceptance means revisiting those abandoned pieces, listening again and welcoming them home. It is sitting with the parts of myself I once called too much or not enough, and learning to see them as unique expressions of my story. This inward reconciliation opens a spaciousness that no external validation can provide. Practically, self-acceptance often begins with awareness, noticing the critical voice that says, "You should have done better," and gently asking, "Is that true? Or is that an old script I inherited?" It may mean practicing affirmations that feel awkward at first, or seeking moments of stillness where I can breathe without judgment. It may mean allowing myself to rest without guilt, laugh without restraint, grieve without apology. Each act, however small, tells my nervous system, I am safe to be me. Authenticity born from acceptance has a quiet power. It does not need to prove itself or dominate a room. Instead, it carries a grounded presence, an honesty that people sense before a word is spoken. This presence attracts trust because it is real. There is no pretending to be flawless, no desperate scramble to impress. Just a human being standing in truth, offering the world the gift of someone fully aligned inside. By nurturing self-acceptance, I release the exhausting chase for an idealized version of myself and discover the profound relief of being. Authenticity flows naturally when there is nothing to conceal. My laughter is unforced, my sadness is not hidden, my boundaries are clear, and my love is unguarded. This is the kind of presence that builds lasting relationships and contributes to a culture where people feel seen, valued, and free to exist as themselves. Vulnerability is essential because it is the bridge between isolation and intimacy, the quiet doorway through which trust is born. To live guarded is to carry a shield that keeps out both harm and closeness, leaving me safe but lonely. To lower that shield even slightly is to say, I am willing to let you see me, and in that simple willingness, a new dimension of human connection begins to unfold. We are often taught to equate vulnerability with weakness. To cry is to lose control, to admit confusion is to fail, to confess fear is to surrender ground. Yet the truth is the opposite. It takes profound strength to stand before another person, or even before myself, and reveal what I genuinely feel. Pretending is easy. Opening is brave. Every authentic bond one have ever known has been built not on flawless performances, but on the shared acknowledgement that we are all imperfect, learning, and longing to belong. When I allow myself to be vulnerable, I give others a chance to meet the real me, the one beneath the curated stories and rehearsed smiles. This honesty invites resonance. Someone hears my uncertainty and thinks, I feel that too. Someone sees my tears and realizes they are not alone in theirs. Through these small, sincere disclosures, walls soften and hearts move closer. What I risk in exposure, I gain in authenticity. Vulnerability also liberates me from the exhausting task of constant self-protection. When I am forever guarding my image, I spend energy calculating what to say, rehearsing what to hide, fearing that a single misstep will unravel the facade. But when I choose openness, I free myself from that endless vigilance. I no longer measure my worth by perfection. I root it in truth. This shift creates a calm steadiness, because nothing authentic can truly be taken away. In relationships, vulnerability is the currency of depth. Superficial exchanges may keep the peace, but they rarely build trust. Trust grows when I dare to admit, I don't have all the answers, or that hurt me, or I need your support. These confessions are tender and risky, yet they invite reciprocity. Another person feels safe to share their story, their doubts, their gratitude. Gradually, what was once a polite acquaintance becomes a genuine bond, strengthened by honesty rather than appearances. Practicing vulnerability does not mean spilling every detail of my life to everyone I meet. It means discerning when and where openness serves growth, intimacy, and understanding. It is the art of letting down defenses enough to be known, while still honoring my boundaries. Sometimes vulnerability is as simple as asking for help instead of struggling in silence, as quiet as admitting I am tired instead of forcing a smile, as profound as telling someone, I care about you, without waiting for reassurance first. This kind of openness transforms communities. When leaders speak candidly about their mistakes, teams feel empowered to innovate without fear. When friends admit their insecurities, the friendship deepens beyond surface chatter. When families share feelings honestly, generational patterns of silence begin to dissolve. Vulnerability creates a climate where truth can breathe, and in that atmosphere, trust becomes natural. Inside myself, vulnerability is equally vital. It asks me to face the feelings I once buried, the grief I postponed, the longing I dismissed, the shame I denied. By acknowledging these parts tenderly, I reclaim them. I discover that my fragility does not diminish me, it humanizes me. Instead of chasing an invincible version of myself, I learn to honor the real, imperfect being I am. From that place of wholeness, I can meet others not as an untouchable persona, but as a fellow traveler on the same unpredictable road. Vulnerability also nurtures empathy. The moment I reveal a fear or a hope, I remember that everyone carries fears and hopes. The world shifts from a competition of masks to a gathering of souls. Judgments soften, compassion expands. Harmony, whether between two people or across cultures, begins in that softening, in the courageous act of being seen and seeing others in return. Deep listening over quick response is a discipline of presence, a quiet art that slows the restless pace of conversation and transforms it into connection. In a world that prizes speed, instant replies, rapid opinions, reflexive debates, listening deeply feels almost radical. Yet it is here, in the patient pause, that understanding takes root and relationships begin to breathe. Most of us are conditioned to listen for our turn to speak. Even as someone is sharing, our minds are drafting rebuttals, formulating advice, searching for anecdotes to insert. This habit creates dialogue that is mechanical, a volley of words rather than an exchange of hearts. Deep listening asks me to set aside the urge to fix, to prove, or to win, and instead to give my full attention to the human being before me. It is the choice to meet words with curiosity rather than preloaded answers. When I listen deeply, I am not merely hearing sounds, I am attuning to the person's inner world. I notice the cadence of their voice, the tremor beneath their laughter, the pauses heavy with what is unsaid. I allow silence to have its place, trusting that in those unfilled moments, meaning ripens. Instead of rushing to fill the space, I honor it, letting the other feel that their words matter enough to rest in the air. Deep listening requires humility. I release the belief that I already know, that my interpretation is final, that my experience is universal. I recognize that every person carries histories and perspectives invisible to me, and that to truly understand, I must quiet the noise of my own certainty. This humility does not erase my voice, it simply postpones it, giving precedence to empathy over ego. Practically, deep listening begins with simple gestures, maintaining gentle eye contact, softening my posture, breathing steadily, and refraining from interrupting. It is allowing another person to finish their thought, even when I feel an answer pressing against my lips. It is asking open-ended questions that invite exploration rather than shutting the conversation down with a quick judgment. It is paraphrasing what I heard, not to prove attentiveness but to ensure clarity. It sounds like you're feeling, or I hear that this mattered deeply to you. These practices signal to the speaker that their experience is seen, valued, and held. Such listening changes the texture of relationships. When someone feels genuinely heard, defenses relax. Misunderstandings fade, because people no longer need to shout over the noise to be noticed. Conflicts soften, not because differences vanish, but because mutual respect grows. In workplaces, families, friendships, wherever deep listening becomes a norm, trust strengthens. People begin to share ideas more freely, knowing that their voice is not met with dismissal or impatience. Deep listening also nourishes my inner life. To practice it with others, I must first cultivate it within. I notice the murmurs of my own thoughts, the subtle tension in my chest, the quiet requests of my heart. I learn to sit with my emotions rather than rushing to explain them away. By listening inwardly, I deepen my capacity to listen outwardly. The patience I grant myself becomes the patience I extend to others. Quick responses are seductive. They make me feel efficient, knowledgeable, even powerful. But efficiency is not intimacy, and knowledge without understanding can wound. Deep listening slows me down, asking me to inhabit the present moment with full awareness. It reminds me that every conversation is not merely an exchange of information but an opportunity to affirm another person's dignity. In that slowing, connection thrives. This practice also bridges divides. In polarized times, when people speak past each other in sound bites, the willingness to truly listen becomes an act of healing. When I listen to someone whose view opposes mine, not to refute but to grasp the roots of their experience, I create a rare space where dialogue, not argument, can flourish. Through that space, empathy has a chance to surface, and empathy is the first thread in the fabric of harmony. The essence of deep listening is respect. Respect for the complexity of another's humanity, respect for the nuance behind their words, respect for the mystery of what I may never fully know. It teaches me that the greatest gift I can offer in conversation is not brilliance or speed, but presence. Presence that says, without a single interruption, you matter enough for me to stay here, fully, until you have shared what is in your heart. When all is said and done, connection is less about grand gestures and more about the quiet choices we make each day. Each pause to listen, each moment of honesty, each breath of patience becomes a stitch in a larger tapestry. When I connect with myself, I stop waging silent wars within. When I connect with others, I begin dissolving the walls that divide. Harmony is no longer an abstract hope somewhere on the horizon. It is alive in the way I greet the morning, in the way I hold a friend's gaze, in the way I walk gently through the world. A harmonious world does not appear overnight, it unfolds through countless moments of presence. One person softens, then another, and soon ripples of understanding begin to spread beyond borders, beyond fear. If I can be the calm I long to see, if you can be the openness you crave, if we can meet one another not as roles but as human beings, then slowly, quietly, the distance between hearts closes. Connection, with myself and with others, becomes not just a path to peace, but the peace itself. And in that peace, the possibility of a world in harmony ceases to be a dream. It becomes the next breath we take together.